Hello, hello. I am so excited today. It is the weekend, which means it is time for me to relax and to cook. And today I am doing a little bit of Christmas baking. My kitchen is a tiny bit messy. I'm not even gonna worry about it too much. I have a son who loves to cook and he made escargot yesterday. Actually, it's not, it's actually kind of a bit of my mess. Actually, no, here, let me show you over here. A little bit of stuff left over, but that's okay. So I have a teenager who loves to cook and I think that's great. So I said to him, just make sure you clean up, and he did a pretty good job. So that's fine. But today we're gonna do some Christmas baking and we are going to make some recipes, some old family recipes. One is my great grandmother's Gingersnap recipe. I've got some other fun things going on here. So first things first, I just need to prepare my pans for my shortbread because this is a 4-ingredient recipe. It is so quick, so easy. So I'm just gonna pop that one straight in the oven after I get the pans ready.
Maybe you are the type that loves to bake and loves to cook and loves to watch this sort of thing, or you're the type that needs a little bit of an extra boost to get things done. No matter what, I hope that you either join me in doing some baking or some cooking, or that you just hang out and watch today as we do some cozy baking. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story. I love baking for Christmas. And when I was a kid and a young adult, I would go and visit my grandparents. We would travel when I was a kid, and then as an adult, I actually lived near them, which was such a gift. But my grandma was an amazing cook. She might still be, but they moved into a place where she doesn't have to cook, so she has opted out of that right now. Regardless, I have always loved her cooking and loved the cozy feeling I would get when we would arrive at their house after traveling from British Columbia to Calgary in Alberta. Often there were some treacherous road conditions, and she would have all sorts of yummy treats ready. She would have butter tarts and just all sorts of cookies, confetti, if you know what that is. And I actually do plan on making a few more videos as we lead up to the holiday season. But one thing I learned as an adult, and you can see the mess behind me right there as I'm chatting, it was driving me crazy. So I did eventually adjust it, so you will notice, because I realized the camera angle, it was bugging me. But anyway, back to the story. So once I became a mom and was the person that wanted to create those cozy feelings for my own kids, I started way too late. One year, I've told this story on my other channel. See, vanish. It's perfectly clean over there now. But anyway, on my other channel, I told the story of one December, I think it was like the 22nd, and I was so disappointed because there were so many things I hadn't gotten done. And I had fantastic experiences as a kid at Christmas. I know not everybody has, but I did. And I wanted to create that not only for the kids, but for myself too. And I have this list of things that I wanted to get done, and I didn't that year. And it really, really bummed me out. And one of the things was the cookies. So I went ahead, I sat down, and I got out this little notebook where I keep my recipes. And I just started writing down all of the things that I wanted to get done as far as baking. I wrote down a list of every single thing that I loved to make. And this isn't necessarily like that I need to do it every year, but it's really handy. I'm actually opening it right now so I can look. But I wrote favorite baking: shortbread, jello, gingerbread, vanilla crunch, cranberry squares, speculas, crunchy bars, sugar cookies, confetti, critters, savory shortbread, Cranberry Bliss bars, which we're making today, sausage rolls, and whipped shortbread, which hopefully we will be making soon. So anyway, I went ahead and decided that I was going to make that list. I made lists of other things. I made lists of all of the TV shows I wanted to watch because I love Christmas shows. This is a long list. And It was, I don't know if I should read out the whole list, but I'm going to. Just fast forward like 30 seconds if you don't like it. And trust me, this whole video is not going to be me reading out lists. And yes, putting that lid on while it was running was a bit of a gamble. Would not recommend. Now, I will quickly, before I get to my list of shows, explain what I'm doing here. Now, they say you should not do that with measuring flour, but that's just how I do it. So I kind of tend to not quite fill it all the way. But this is the easiest recipe, and you can find all of my recipes linked below. This recipe is butter, room temperature butter. I use salted butter because then I don't need to add salt. Butter, and then it is icing sugar and vanilla and flour. That's it. It is delicious. I love it so much. So anyway, my shows that I love to make sure that I watch every year, and I don't actually watch all of them every year, although we have already watched one, but we watch Scrooged, Elf, National Lampoons, Christmas with the Cranks. Make sure you comment below which any of these your favorite treats are, your favorite shows, any of the things that you need to get done every Christmas. Krampus, Charlie Brown Christmas. I mean, obviously that's a classic. Garfield Christmas. I love that one so much. Christmas Story, Yogi Christmas, Die Hard, It's a Wonderful Life, A Christmas Carol, The Muppet Christmas Carol, and the Mickey version. Muppet Family Christmas. Oh my gosh. As a child, I think that was my favorite as a kid. Little Women, Roseanne. I really like a lot of the Roseanne episodes that are for Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Halloween. Victorian Farm. If you're aware of the Victorian Farm series, which is from the BBC, and they started it, I think in like 2000, is it 2007 or 2009? Anyway, there's a fantastic 3-part series. I love it so much. Polar Express, Just Friends, Grinch ×2, not the newest one, definitely not the newest one. Nightmare Before Christmas, Love Actually, which I'm going to be honest, we watched Love Actually a couple years ago and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. It's just a little too, I don't even know what I can say. It's just almost too cheesy. I think once you've been married for 20 years, you just are like, okay. I mean, it just seems completely unrealistic, but that's okay. It's a movie. While You Were Sleeping, Frosty, Gremlins, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, Worst Jobs in Christmas History with Tony Robinson, and The Ref. We watched The Ref the other day. So anyway, I made this list because I was like, I want to get all of this stuff done. And it's been really helpful. So one of the things that I did after making these lists was I then assigned days to start them. So now I'm going to grab my phone and I assigned when I was going to start doing certain things because I realized that December, I mean, I love Christmas and I love fall, but December is a really busy month. There's just so much involved for a lot of people. And I mean, I think that obviously will slow down as my kids get older. And right now they're 15, 17, and 19. So one is at university. So we're only dealing with one or two at home. One of them can drive now. So, life is a little bit easier. But there's a lot going on in December. There used to be Christmas concerts. There's not so much now that they're teenagers. So what you're seeing me do is with this pan is like squishing. And, really, you have to just get in there with your hands. Sometimes I get, the bottom of something flat and try to do it. And usually I'm just like, okay, this is just silly. So anyway, back to the planning. What I did was I started assigning when things needed to be done, and I put them on repeat reminder in my calendar for my digital calendar. Now, if you don't use a digital calendar, then you could also just write it on paper. Now, I will get back to you in 1 second. Okay, it is time to make the delicious Gingersnap cookies. So I just weighed my butter. Now, I don't always weigh butter, but I like to. And with the last recipe, I didn't, just because it's not a big deal if there's like a tiny bit more butter, but in this case, I just did. And now I'm gonna start doing the rest. This is my Nana's recipe, which I have on my website now. So I am going to add the sugar and the eggs and the molasses to this. Now, before I get back to how planning can basically just make it so you can have a relaxing baking day if you want, I'm just going to catch you up on the baking of the recipe. So really all you do with that shortbread is you just mix it together and you put it out in the pans. I use the parchment paper to line the pans. I also grease them ahead of time, put them in there and dock them, poke them with a fork, and then bake them. Now what I'm doing here is I'm putting a little bit of oil in my measuring cup. That oil needs to be refilled, but I was like, I'm not going to do it right away. So honestly, what's better is using something like butter or measuring butter or oil ahead of time, but I find that it helps the molasses come out. This one came out okay, not great, but definitely better. And I will tell you a little story about this ginger snap recipe quickly. Now, when I was a kid, my mom made this most of the time, and I think she often made it in the winter. And I remember coming home from school and she was at work. My dad was at work and I don't think she realized it, but we had, I definitely would eat a lot of these cookies after school. Good memories. And they were so good, dipped in milk, and she made them bigger. So they had kind of like a funny, sort of like an oval shape, but not quite. And I remember like how I would bite them so I could dip them in the cup and all of the things. They were so good. I remember watching some kind of show that took place with people at a lighthouse. It was good. Good memories. So it's so funny the things that we remember. Let me know your stories that you remember from a kid or as an adult or with your kids or whatever in the comments below. So when it comes to planning, what I did was I put in my phone on reminder when to put on the winter tires, which I normally have down like for the 25th-ish of October. That might be a bit early, but at the very least then say if you're going to bring it to a body shop or something, not a body shop, a mechanic, I don't know, a tire store where they would, you could book that appointment, right? Like it's handy to start thinking about these things. I also put down for November 1st to buy gift cards for teachers, which is really handy. I also put down to put up Christmas lights just because weather could be an issue. My husband this summer, he put up, they're like a permanent Christmas light and they stick to the eaves of the house and they blend in most places except for the entryway, which is exactly where you want them to blend in. But anyway, so that's really handy. And one of the things that I have on there is to start baking. I put down gingerbread house for the 12th of November. And I mean, it's not like I need to do all of these things. One of them is to book the IMAX tickets because we used to go and see the Polar Express. I think they stopped doing that now, which is a shame. But we also used to do this train ride, and last year I didn't get tickets, and I think I put that on here, but then they weren't open, so I need to check. So so I put down to start the Christmas baking around the 15th of November, but this year I actually started it on the 8th, and I'm telling you, I do not regret it one bit. It was so fun to get festive. I put my little lights up on the cupboards, which you may notice in a bit. I also, you'll see later that I'm like, I'm going to turn off these lights so you can see them better. Now, the cloves that you may have just seen me smelling, I was like, ooh, I'm going to adjust the recipe slightly. So I'm looking at this old recipe of my Nana's, and I did put it on my website. And I did actually reduce the cloves. Now, having eaten them, I don't know if the cloves need to be reduced. I also did change the baking time, which you will see later, because they actually took a really long time to bake, and it was at 325. And I was like, okay, we can raise it to 350 and bake them for a little bit shorter. Can we see my Christmas lights a tiny bit better now that I turned off this light? And that light, it drives me crazy because if you look up there, it's hanging by the wire. That the other one isn't. So I need to replace. I just, anytime I need to buy something, I am so indecisive. It takes me forever. So I'm now mixing this up just to combine. And maybe you're the type, you're actually like, I'm not a big baker. I would rather buy my things. That's actually fine too, obviously. This is why you could start maybe deciding what to buy earlier if you're going to, if you're buying baked goods. I mean, on this channel, I actually am trying to show healthier meals most of the time, but this is just my little indulgence in total junk food. And believe me, I don't even eat the equivalent of one cookie a day, but I also don't limit myself really. Like every now and then I'm going to have, a snack or whatever. Believe me, this day I tried all of the things and they were all delicious. But anyway, say you're like in the fruitcake camp. I don't know. Maybe people are. Or, in that Victorian farm show I was telling you about, she makes Christmas pudding. And I don't know why. I just really want to try it. But being raised in Western Canada to a family that never made it, I have not been exposed. But anyway, maybe you want to organize getting that. Even if you have a turkey, the company where I like to order my meat, I was looking at their website yesterday and they were saying something about turkeys there. So if you want to get ahead and just start making lists, it's really helpful and it can be so much more enjoyable. And that one Christmas that I mentioned, that on December 22nd, I felt behind and I just started making lists. I wasn't necessarily like, this Christmas is a write-off. I think I actually did go home because I remember we were on a walk. And I think I did go home and make like 2 batches of cookies. And I was like, okay. But then I thought next year I'm going to be ready because you know what? Like next year comes and this way I was like, I am going to be prepared. And it has literally made the season so much more enjoyable. And I can't tell you how much I love just kicking back and doing some Christmas baking. So what I should have done, and the day did get away from me in a couple of ways here, was go ahead and stick this in the fridge for only half an hour. I decided to put it in the fridge because it was very soft and it could have chilled for just half an hour. But I did have a call with a client and I needed to go for a massage because I have terrible SI back joint pain right now, and so hopefully it is getting better soon. I'm going to see my chiropractor in a couple days, but anyway, I did have to step away. So the great thing about this shortbread is that if you just take it out of the oven, let it sit for 10 minutes, and then you can cut it up. Now, I do it in these round pans. I think that's the traditional Scottish way. My mother-in-law is Scottish, and she has never said anything if this is wrong, but you could certainly do it in a square pan and just chop it up however you like. It does not matter. Now, what I'm prepping next is one of the most delicious treats this year. Speaking of my mother-in-law, she absolutely loves it, and it is the Copycat recipe for Starbucks Cranberry Bliss bar. So I prepare the pan with just greasing it and then putting in parchment paper. Now, a fun trick, which I did not do this time, is if you even crumple up parchment paper, it's easier to spread out. I don't know why I didn't. I think I was thinking of the trick where you crumple it up and you get it wet and then you put it in and then you heat up the pan, but I didn't do that. But I could have just crumpled it up and it makes it so much easier to manage. So anyway, this is such a great and easy recipe and so delicious. So you just measure out the dry ingredients and it's got some sort of similar flavors to the Gingersnap recipe. So I was able to use like a lot of the same implements. I wasn't able to use the one mixing bowl because I put the other one in the fridge. And then because I went away, you're going to see how it goes. But it's fine. It's fine. And I just start measuring the stuff out. And I'm also making something else in the mixer. So I quickly just made some brown sugar because either I'm out or I didn't feel like going into the basement to go and get some. So I have my other mixer here, and I just added a tablespoon of brown sugar to a cup of, a tablespoon of molasses to a cup of sugar. And now I'm going to put it in the container, and then we can do the beginning part of this recipe. I love that this is an option. I was just like, why didn't I know this like years and years ago? I found it out a couple of years ago. But anyway, I keep my brown sugar in this container. So it was great. I was able to just fill it up. I used my canning funnel because that just makes filling things up a lot easier. Now, I do have my freeze dryer. Not really getting into that in this episode, but I will tell you that I would love a much bigger funnel for my freeze dryer. Now, this recipe that I am making has kind of like an orangey flavor. That is optional if you're not a big lover of orange. I don't actually love a ton of orange, but this orange zest has a really, really kind of delicate flavor that it adds to these bars. So they're kind of like a cranberry orange sort of bar. And I use this rasp or microplane to just take the zest off of this delicious mandarin or clementine orange, however you like to call it. Oh my gosh. And it was so nice to dig into it. I was literally just craving it. It's so funny how. Now you tell me if you're the same way. That you, and maybe you hate Christmas. And I know a lot of people do for many reasons. And my heart goes out to you if it does. But I have loved it for my whole life. A little bit of the magic has gone away a bit as an adult, I will definitely say. But as I am a person that loves it so much, and I remember being a kid and we would get the little box of the mandarin oranges, Chinese oranges, whatever you call them. And it was just like, they're wrapped in green paper. And I like so much so that we put a lot of our ornaments in these boxes. They're actually a pretty small box now that I think about it. But I was craving those cookies. Something about this year, I'm just feeling so good about getting just into the holiday spirit. And it is just so nice. I think part of it, I will say, is that in recent years, as that I'm 45 right now, and we also moved to a house closer to the mountain where the sun sets 2 hours earlier than it does literally 7 minutes up the road because we are next to the mountain now. So that's less daylight when the days are very short. Now, where I live, the sun is up. Well, it's light on the summer solstice for over 16 hours that day. Like it's light. More than that, I think. I can't remember. But anyway, like it's bright. And I mean, actually, no, it's way longer than that. The sun sets, it's like there's light in the sky until like 11:30. And then it gets laid out at like, I don't know, 3:30 or something. But anyway, wintertime, totally different story. We only have like 8 hours of daylight. And the sun sets early and it is like dark by like 4:20 p.m. So anyway, I was feeling kind of a little bit more blue, partially from age, I think, partially being next to the mountain, partially because on Vancouver Island, it is like dreary and rainy. But I started taking vitamin D with the help of my medical professional who suggested the proper dose for me, which was 4,000 IUs for me. I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm just telling you what I take per day. And I did that. I did a bit of a catch up she advised me on. And now I take about I think she told me to take 3,000, but I do 4,000 drops. So 4 drops because I assume the bowl is taking one of my drops because I put it in my morning breakfast. And I'm telling you, it has made the hugest difference for me. Now I do have a SAD light, seasonal affective disorder light. It's a bright light. I haven't felt the need to pull it out. I probably should anyway. I also have red light therapy, which is amazing. I even got the mask because I have rosacea, and that is really helpful too. But I think because I'm not like craving the heat, the sun or whatever, which I probably still will. I did last winter, but last winter was my first winter having had all of that vitamin D in my system. And I'm telling you, I felt a million times better. And it's so good for so many things. Like, of course, mental health. It's good for your immune system. It's good for a lot of other things. I mean, I believe it is an essential nutrient. It's just really hard for our bodies to get it naturally through food. It's added to milk, We can get it through the sun, but my one doctor told me that you'd have to be naked outside for 15 minutes a day. And I mean, I don't think that my neighbors would like that. So I don't do that. So I just got back. I had an appointment because my back has been so sore. And my family was in here making a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do first is start on the icing for these delicious bars. My husband took these out while I was away. So sweet of him. And then I'm going to cook up the Gingersnaps. Unfortunately, I put them in the fridge too long. They should only be in there for like 30 minutes to chill, and now they are hard. So once they soften up, we will cook those too. I was actually very pleased with how they left the kitchen. It was pretty tidy. Surprised that they left the cupboards open. Doesn't matter. I mean, I think I do that half the time. But anyway, it was time to make these delicious, obviously, cream cheese dressing because I'm opening it. I did not have it warmed up to room temperature, which I completely had planned on doing since I started cooking like hours before. And what I did was I just softened it in the microwave. My microwave has a setting to soften butter, so I just used that a couple of times and just checked it a lot because I didn't want it super melty. I just wanted it room temperature-ish. So got it in the mixer and started mixing it up. And also there's some butter in there. And it is so good. I absolutely am obsessed with having a tasty icing like this, which I do not have very often. So it's just nice to like taste it every now and then. You can see I've got a bit of orange zest in the background, and you're going to see how this comes together. And it is just so darn yummy. And I want to ask you, do you like to cook when your family's home? When my kids were little, obviously there was not much of a choice, and I, of course, did. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you right now, I am sifting in the icing sugar, and it is a game changer for icings. Oh my gosh, it is so good. And in fact, I think that my Nana's recipe for the sugar snap cookie calls for the flour to be sifted in, and I was like, I'm not doing it for that, but it makes such a difference with the icing. Now, I have a serious question for you. Do you, when you're watching a video like this, like when it is real time, so not sped up? Because it is just so my instinct right now. And I just keep cutting out sections as I'm talking and doing these recipes. But I often will just like speed stuff up to double speed because I mean, it just feels like it's so slow, but hopefully the conversation is helping. And I hope that you're feeling inspired so far to either do some cooking, do some baking, do some cleaning, just do anything that feels good. And that's the whole point. Like for me, this is how I relax. If you don't like baking or cooking to relax, don't do it and expect to relax. For me, that's how I relax. But maybe for you, it's something else. Maybe it's gardening. I do happen to like gardening, but maybe it's folding laundry. Some people actually like folding laundry. I don't understand that at all, but maybe you're just one of those very special people. So let me know, do you like when the video is sped up to double speed? Because my goal for this video was for it to be a little bit more relaxing. And I thought double speed is not relaxing. I truly believe that when you're looking at that, your brain is like, I'm not relaxed. And instead, I can just cut out sections where the mixer's running, or I'm doing the same thing forever, squishing dough into the pan where it took, 5 minutes. Instead, I made it take like 10 seconds with the editing. One of the handy things about cooking when your family's home, though, is that you can say to your husband, when the timer goes, take this out of the oven. It may be slightly overcooked, but believe me, it does not taste like it. And I like just having that parchment for many reasons, not the least of which I can actually pull it straight out of the pan once it was nice and cool, because it was like straight up room temperature. You would not want to put the icing on when it is room temperature. So tell me, did you like when that was sped up right there? I'm just curious. And honestly, as the person doing it, it's kind of fun to watch me moving so fast because I don't usually move that fast. So another thing that I like about this recipe, not only does it have delicious white chocolate chips and cranberries and orange zest in it, and of course vanilla, but it also has and icing. It also has drizzled white chocolate on top. So melting this white chocolate takes a tiny bit of time in the microwave. You're going to stop and start a few times, come back just to make sure that it doesn't burn. Give it a good stir. Make sure that it is smooth enough to drizzle over top. And I don't need it to be perfect. I just want it to be drizzled on there. And I want to use every bit of the chocolate that I'm drizzling. And if you see me talking, I'm probably talking to one of my family members. But I just make sure that it's so drizzled. And then once I have that all on there, not a tiny drop of this deliciousness is wasted, then I put on the cranberries. Now I did chop a few more cranberries, as you could see before, and I just go ahead, chop them, put them on top too, and look how amazing they look. While I wait for the ginger snaps to harden, I'm going to make a delicious candy cane mocha. And no, this is not sponsored, but this is one of my favorite treats. So this is Murchie's First Frosty. It's very good. It's not super sweet compared to the delicious David's Tea Candy Cane Crush, which is also very good. And what I do is I use my kettle. I will link it below. It is amazing. I love it so much. I thought it was breaking, but it wasn't. I just need to clean it, which was fine. But, and I'm also making my husband a latte too. But it is just, it's hot water on demand. So you wake up in the morning and it's full of hot water. It's so nice. I love it so much. And then I get my milk frother. I add some milk in and froth it up. And today, what I did was I added in some of this yummy, it could be any kind of cocoa mix. This is just Bloom, so it's like apparently slightly healthier. And I put that in too, put it on, and it froths it up, and it makes the most delicious little mocha. Okay, so the ginger snap dough had sat at room temperature for about an hour. And like I said, and it really should have just been in the fridge for about half an hour. But again, no biggie. This truly was just like the extent of my plans for the day, minus that one client call and going to the massage. And what you do is you just make balls. Now, I will show you that I did have a bit of trouble with this because it had been a very long time since I had made this recipe, like probably since childhood. And it is so easy, but I made the balls, and initially I tried to do this. And what I learned as a kid was just to dip this glass that we had, which was like a crystal glass that had a great design in, and to squish down the cookies. So I was using this metal measuring cup, which maybe was just too smooth and stuck to them too much, a kind of like hydrogen bond, if you will, maybe, I don't know. But instead, no, that actually was not what I should have done. What I should have done was this: rolled them in sugar, and then they are far easier to push down. It is like butter. And then I got these puppies put in the oven, and they baked up so nicely. And then it was time to cut up my delicious Cranberry Bliss bars. Now at Starbucks, they cut them into triangles, and I did briefly think I could still, and I could have, I think they would have been more diamond shaped, but it doesn't matter. They were delicious. It doesn't really matter. I mean, honestly, I do try not to eat too much junk food or sugar. So this shape, I'm eating like edge pieces. But they're so good, and they're so pretty, and they're just so good in gift baskets, which I love to make. Now, the Gingersnaps came out looking amazing and just so dang tasty. It's just been hilarious. I hid some because I wanted to take a couple pictures for my blog posts, and noticed that huge amounts of them were going missing every day. So I had to work on that. And I thought, okay, it's a good thing I started baking early. I'm going to have to do it again. I also hide my baked goods in my freezer in a big broccoli bag, like an empty bag. And it works. Don't tell my family. These are just like my Nana made, except for my mom used to make them a little bit bigger, although some of them, and they would touch, so they'd be a bit of a different shape. But these ones, some of them are round and some of them have that shape.
Thank you so much. I think you'd love this video. This is all about how I make my Thanksgiving meal, and I do it fast and minimal, and it is so good. Stay tidy, my day. I hope something great happens for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.